Hello everyone. In last video I showed that I found this card for 500. It was listed as used, but upon inspection it was like almost brand new. Even you can see the plastic on the shroud was there. So I replaced the thermal paste. I put the phase change thermal pad to see the longevity of it, to see how long it will last. Also replaced the thermal pads and managed to drop temperatures both for the core and for memory, as I use the graphite thermal pads for the memories. And right after it, I managed to score another 2 great deals. And today I want to compare to see if it's worth keeping 3090 and selling the other ones for the profit, or to sell the 3090 and keep one of them. So the next card, it is 4070 Ti. It was this one. The seller was asking 650. I offered 600. Again, it was listed used, but upon inspection, like this card was introduced recently. Nobody was mining on it. Most probably like 99% is only been used for gaming. And he said that he purchased like 7 months ago. But like upon inspection, I didn't find any dust, nothing. Maybe they used very little. So anyway, I went ahead and grabbed this card for 600, and then I get this one, 7900 XTX. Again, it was listed as used, but it was very good condition. No dust, nothing. So it was used maybe for a very short period of time. And again, I offered 700 and the seller accepted, so I went ahead and grabbed it. So what we have for today testing, we have 3090 for 500, we have 4070 Ti for 600, and we have 7900 XTX for 700. And today I want to find out this $100 gap, is it worth for the performance gain, or it's better to sell them for the profit and keep my initial 3090 as I planned. Plus I already invested around like $40 on it, changing the thermal paste, thermal pads, everything to keep for the long period. So I made the several testing. Everything was recorded on OBS, and then when it's recorded on the same PC, you can count like around 5% drop in the FPS. So when you play in like 45 FPS, you turn on the OBS, you lose like probably 3 FPS. So I tested everything. You can just, if you want to see the pure performance, and everything will be run on the stock settings. So the pure performance, you just have to add like 5%. That's it, you will get real numbers. But for comparison, as all cards was suffering from this 5% drop, I think it's completely fair. So let's see this game. Here we have Alan Wake. I will put against 4070 Ti, and we'll see what we got here. So here 3090 on the left, 4070 on the right. Here you can see the settings. So everything is maxed out in each game, including the ray tracing. As I can see the picture difference between ray traced game and non-ray traced. And after seeing it, I cannot just throw it away to gain some FPS in the game, especially when you're playing the game and you want to enjoy the visual aspects of it. You are not like playing for the competition like EA games, where you need every bit of frames to have advantage over the competitors. Here you're just playing to have fun and to please your eyes. So you cannot say, that you have to turn off the ray tracing, then you can gain more FPS. Yes, you can, but like there is no point. When this technology was introduced, I think every game should be played in these settings. Unless when you turn on and turn off, you don't see the difference. But in my case, I see that difference in every games, and the difference I see, I like it. If you don't like that difference of ray tracing, yes, of course, then you have to do completely different comparison of the graphic cards. As we all know that the ray tracing hit more to the AMD cards performance than the NVIDIA, so it's giving some kind of unfair advantage to the NVIDIA, but that's the current reality of these GPU products. You cannot do anything with it. If this technology is introduced, they both have it, and I like what I see when I turn on the ray tracing. I have to play all the games with ray tracing. Another topic for discussion, like how much ray tracing is good. Some games you can like play on the medium, you will not notice much of the difference when you go to the high or ultra settings, but some games you have to play on the ultra. Some games you have to play on the path tracing. That's another aspect of discussion. Yes, of course, you can tune the settings. You can tune all settings in each game, get the settings turned down, which doesn't have bigger visual impact. And when you are playing even this kind of slow-paced games, you will not notice it. Sure, you can tone down, but like to turn off completely ray tracing and say, now we are comparing with AMD, no, I'm against it, because you definitely can see the quality improvement by turning on the ray tracing. So this game, as I said, we have ultra settings. Let's see what will be the performance. So here we can see, and by the way, the CPU is 7700, not X version, and it is again nothing turned on, no modification, no PBO. It's a stock, everything stock, to compare and see the difference. So here we can see that on 4070 Ti, we have higher 1% and 0.1% FPS. It's like 27 against 23 and 25 against 14 of 3090. And here, yeah, you see that my 3090 is running much cooler than 4070 Ti, which both are stuck, and like it's amazing numbers. So the first part, I want to pause here. Let's see. Go a little bit more closer here. So here we can see, I already noticed the difference. That's why I want to emphasize on it. So here we can see that everything is smooth. There is no much difference between these two pictures. Yeah, obviously this is the same manufacturers, NVIDIA GPU, the drivers and everything. So they should look the same. And in this scene, we can see like that 4070 Ti is beating 3090. Let's go a little bit further here. Again, this is a high demanding scene when all ray tracing is utilized. Again, we can see that here 4070 is ahead, 4070 Ti is ahead, and the VRAM utilization is lower, 10.6 against 11.4. And here you can see it's used less power than 3090, but due to my modification, the 3090 running much cooler compared to 4070 Ti, which I cannot be more than happy about these figures. So only by this game let's see, $100 difference. For this card I pay 500, for this one I paid 600. And do we getting $100 more performance? Let's say like it's 20%. So 23 divided by 5, around coming like 4.6. If we add 4.6, it will be 27.6. So we're getting comparable performance boost if we compare with the price. So in this game, yeah, I can go and sell my 3090, then make the same modifications on this card, put the phase change thermal pads, graphic thermal pads, and get even better temperatures. Now let's see what will be the difference if we turn on the DLSS on the quality, because that's the only feature which I think I can go and use it in the games. I tried the DLSS 3, which is generating the frames, and the old games which is running like near 30, 40 FPS. When you turn on that frame generation, yeah, in later games I will show you, you will see some nasty artifacts which is making it non-usable. And to buy the 4070 Ti for the game which is running like smooth on 70 FPS or like 60 FPS, to turn on the DLSS 3 and get some another like 30 FPS, I don't think that it's justified. We need that technology to work for the games which is falling below, let's say, 40 FPS, 30 FPS, to boost it, to make it smooth. But when for that games we turn on the frame generation and we seeing the artifacts, yeah, we cannot use them. Okay, let's go ahead, as I said, and turn on the DLSS. Yeah, we'll see. Here we go. The quality, the both games. Again, let's go to the same places. Let's look at this car again. We can see a little bit smoothness here and here, because obviously we're using less pixels. That's why you can see that the quality is a little bit worse, but the rest again is similar. Now let's go to that last scene. And compare performance. So again, you can see that the memory utilization dropped, but frame rates increased. And here the gap, if we'll do the math for, let's say, 37 frames divided by 5, is something like 7.5, let's say 7.6, and plus to 37 is coming like around 45, round up. So we're gaining, even the gap is increasing by using the DLSS 2 between these two cards even more. So again, in this game, we can say yes, like if all other parts is equal and you can tune the card, you can get the temperatures lower. Yeah, maybe it's worth to pay $100 and get much better performance, especially in the native resolution, because like playing games with this kind of frame rates is not enjoyable. you have to play at least with these ones. Yes, with this one, this game, you can enjoy the game. You will not notice like anything disturbing. So if you can play this game with these settings and have a double the memory size in the spare for future games, sure, I will most probably keep 3090 and will skip the 4070. But again, now let's compare the 3090 to 7900 XTX. Let's see what it can offer. Again, here we can see the everything native, everything on the high or ultra, which is possible, including the ray tracing. We'll go back. Here. We'll come to this scene, which I want to show you the difference. Picture quality. Like here, it's obviously you can see the difference. Let's go a little back. You can see a picture quality difference. Look at the ground here and here. Here is on the 7900. It's different type of rendering. The colors are a little bit different. Here it looks like a washed out, where here it's more like visible. You can see everything on the ground. So this is the one of the difference in this drivers being from different. The same goes to the like here. Look at the plates. Here it's more visible than on NVIDIA. So some like I don't know, some difference you can clearly see when you pause the game, but of course when you're playing it's not that visible. But again, when we have a chance to like look at this part, you see here it's washed out, here it's so clean. So this is a difference which I noticed. Now let's go to the last scene and to see the performance. Here, let's compare. You'll see the frame time graph, how smooth it is here. Here we have these spikes, and these spikes, I guarantee you will notice in the game. Plus the spikes, you can see 1% and 0.1%, they goes below 24 FPS, which 100% you will notice. So comparing this one, this costs 500, this one's 700, and this 700, I was very lucky to get this card for 700. I cannot justify like 3 FPS plus the dips and not smooth frame time. So definitely you cannot enjoy this game with this card on the settings, which I'm using now. You have to tune down some settings to have a smooth graph and lift these two numbers at least to 24. Now let's see the DLSS2 against FSR. Again, I'm using the quality. The rest is the same. Let's go here. I will show you more. No. Now look at here. Now look here. How smooth it is. It's very smooth. And here, it's terrible. This compared to this one, look like this one is quality, this one is performance. Because so many pixels are visible here. So even turning off the pixel quantity and then using the FSR2, what we are getting? We're getting worse picture quality. And if we compare the numbers in the last scene, Again, it's better than the native, but again, it's not smooth. Again, we're dipping below 24 FPS. And the performance wise, like, it's similar to 4070 Ti. I will compare it to. But again, like, to gain here when it's 38, it's already perfectly fine for this game. To get extra 7 FPS, you will not notice the more smoothness from the game, but dips from 28 to 16 you will notice. So definitely for this game, I cannot go and spend $200 more to get this kind of performance. Now let's compare to 4070 Ti and do the same exact thing. Let's compare this scene. Again, this is the native resolution for 4070 Ti to 7900 XTX. You can see the same difference. The ground is rendered differently. It's more pleasing to the eye, and it's like the shadows here, the reflections, everything for my eye, it looks much better than the NVIDIA. Now let's see what will be the performance. Let's go to that last scene where a lot of ray tracing is being used. Again, we remember that the frame time graph wasn't smooth. Now let's compare. So we see almost exactly same frames being rendered, but again, to pay $100 more to get 24 gigabyte of VRAM, but have like half performance in the 0.1% FPS and like 11 frames less. And again, this is the 11 frames which we need. We need to keep these numbers at least on 24, not to have unpleasing artifacts. At least 24. And of course, the higher it's, the smoother. If this one could be like 40, we'll enjoy the game very much. But this one is not enjoyable. Now let's compare the FSR2. Let's again look at that car. Look from this distance. Look from this distance to the car. Look from here. You can notice this one in the game. When you're playing, you can notice this one in the game. You can notice everything in the game. I guarantee you. Especially when you're standing, the moving, the mouse, you can see all these ones. And this is a quality preset of FSR against the quality of the Illustrator. So quality wise is very poor. Now let's go to the last scene. Let's see the numbers here. You see again very smooth graph, not so smooth. Numbers, you can see this one generating more frames. It's more than double 0.1% FPS. And then 16 frames more in 1%. So what I can say, this card is definitely losing both to 3090 and 4070 Ti. And in this game, my number one pick will be 3090 because of that quality DLSS performance. You can put quality and play that game and have extra VRAM instead of buying like 4070 for $100 more, but have very limited number of VRAM, which in more future games will be critical factor, and you will be forced, especially when you are playing as me, almost everything maxed out. Maybe some settings will be turned down depending on their visual performance, but again, you need that VRAM. So still I am holding my 3090 and I'm not going to keep the 4070 Ti or even 7900 XTX. Now let's watch and compare another game. So the next game is Cyberpunk. Everything almost maxed out, using a ray tracing, no path tracing. And let's compare. On the right is a 4070 Ti, on the left 3090. Same scene, same settings. Let's see what will be the what will be the performance, and see also other measurement points like the temperature wise. We can see 81, 77, 79, almost 10%. I still cannot believe that by using 404 watts this console is much cooler compared to 4070 Ti. It uses more VRAM because it has more VRAM. I think the game sees that there is a more available, so using some 600 watts megabytes more. And in this intensive gameplay, and there is a water, there is a shadows, there is a shooting and everything. We can see that on native settings we are on the playable level above 24. Here is 31, 32. So if we'll compare the average again, maybe it will be the same, like 20% more FPS for the 20% more price. But again, let's not to forget about that extra 12 gigabytes of VRAM. 0.1% loads are almost similar. So what I can say, just playing on the native resolution, I think I can pretty much stay with 3090 and enjoy the game and have more room for future upcoming games to use that extra. Because in the next games, I will show you that the game can use more VRAM, but it doesn't mean that it is more demanding on the GPU, because there is another part of people who justify it by saying, you know, the games will be more demanding on the GPU and they will be demanding more VRAM. So if you hardly meeting the 24 frames for this game, for example, this game, if it's like hitting 24, 23 frames, the future like Cyberpunk 2, which can utilize like 50% more VRAM, it will be also utilizing 50% more from your GPU performance. So making your GPU to generate instead of 24, like for example, like 12 frames. And in that case, even having like extra VRAM, it will not help you to play the game smoothly. You still have to go down in the settings, but it's not true. At least in the current games, I see it. The same Resident Evil 4, you can see that the game, you go higher on the VRAM usage, but still your card pretty much can run that game, even like utilizing 16 gigabytes of VRAM. So we already came to the 3090. We already on the part of quality settings of DLSS. So let's put this one also to the part where the quality setting of DLSS turned on and compare it. So here again we can see instantly dip in the memory usage because less pixel is being rendered. Temperatures is pretty much the same. Performance wise, like here we are in 1%, we almost the same. Almost. So you will not notice more smoothness in the 1% than like on 0.1%. But like you see in some scenes they even match each other. So what I can say, like you're getting roughly again like 10 frames more in average frames, but like you paying $100 more for that, like 20% gain for the 20% of money. It's a fair deal, but again we're losing 12 gigabytes of VRAM. So now let's see the frame generation part. It should be the separate video or no? Yes, this one. So here you can see, so it's turned off. Now we're turning off the frame generation, DLSS on auto, be to off. The rest is the same. Ray tracing on. And now let's see the difference. So in this scene that I want to show you, so here it's a frame generation on, no DLSS 2, just frame generation. So if you remember, we were getting like 32 frames. Now the frames almost doubled. But in these fast movements, you can see a lot of artifacts. I already start feeling dizzy. My eyes are hurting. You can see on the grass, it's teared up. It's like you can see a lot of artifacts. Like it's not enjoyable. Like it's not 60 frames. Now let's do the DLSS super resolution on quality. And in here, we already can remember that we were getting around 50 frames. So with 50 frames, using the generation of frames, getting 90, let's say, and comparing that, you can see like everything here. It's already not that bad. So almost 100 frames. So 50 again, like it was 50 frames. It's like doubling, let's say, because it was around 50. Now we are around 100. So half of the frame is generated. And here you can see much pleasant picture. The movement, everything is much pleasant. I can play like this game without no issue. But if you compare this 100 to the 50 frames of this game, when I was playing it without frame generation, it was again pretty much enjoyable. So what's the point like of using this technique on this game on native resolution when you are getting a lot of artifacts? Now let's just do the path tracing, see what will be the numbers with the frame generation and the DLSS on quality. Also, let's turn on the reconstruction. Let's see what frames will get it here. So path tracing is 60. So we are around again by the same calculation. We're getting around 30 native frames, which is doubled. And you can see again the same dizziness, the same turn down. You see in every jump, you can see that artifacts in every render scene. Like, what is this? You can see. It's clearly you can see, yes, all these artifacts. Like when it's still, you cannot see. When you freeze the frame in the movement, you can see. So frame generation is good, like 4 or 50 frames and more. Like here, you see all these artifacts. You see one gun here, second gun here. It's everything. Because it's not enough. You cannot play, and this is the native. It's horrible. So again, at this point, I'm not changing my opinion that if you are playing on the maximum settings, most of the parts your game or your GPU will be struggle to generate more than like 40-50 frames, and then using the frame generation to double that low quantity of frames will bring you this kind of artifacts. So there is no point on relying on this feature and then upgrading your card from 3090 to 4070 Ti and saying I'm getting the frame generation. Yes, you're getting it, but you cannot use it on the games which already struggling to generate enough frames to make it enjoyable. Compared to the DLSS 2 where you going down on the resolution, you're getting more frames, which looks more pleasant than just dropping down the resolution in the game without that technique. Especially in the NVIDIA. Yes, in AMD we saw the artifacts we saw the downside of that technology on the car, which was all like not so smooth. But the NVIDIA, you can clearly use it. So again, here I would say I will keep my 3090. Maybe I will down the ray tracing a little bit down and some couple more settings to have that 1% or 0.1% at least on 30 frames level, and continue playing, enjoying the game. Again, on the left side 3090, right side 7900 XTX. So what we are getting here, it's more or less similar frames, maybe a couple more frames on 7900. You can see the VRAM as both has 24, so the game almost used the same VRAM. And we're getting like almost similar. The frame time is smooth, 0.1% and 1% is comparable. So paying $200 more to get this kind of bump in performance, which is almost no bump. It's like 1-2% boost and then that's it. I don't see any meaning. Now let's go and compare the FSR numbers. Again, here what we can see. So average just around 4 frames higher. Real-time rendering around 6, 7, $200 more. I don't think it is worth upgrading from this card to this one when the numbers are this type. Now let's go to this door. So 9 more frames, again like $200 more, and in the gameplay 56 or 47 you will not notice that difference. It's not so big to say it will make your gameplay more enjoyable. No, it will not make it. So again, second game in a row, I'm still thinking that $500 3090 is much better than 700 7900 XTX or 600 470 Ti, at least for me. If you have a different opinion, I would like to listen it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you will make some other points which I didn't think about it. But at least here, $200 more, same VRAM, but performance in some games, like in Alan Wake, is worse than 3090. In Cyberpunk, it's better a little bit, but still 3090 is playable, so I don't need that extra 9 frames boost in the frame to make it more enjoyable. But I'm paying $200 more, and I'm getting the same VRAM. And 470 Ti is like you're getting less VRAM, you're getting again like 20% boost in the frame rates, still playable in both cards. So again, I will not go and buy, especially when I need that 24 gigabytes also, as I said, to test more future games to see how much they use in each settings. So the next game I would like to compare is Starfield. It's a relatively new game, everything on the max settings. Let's see what type of performance we'll get it here. You see that the frames here is not 20% more already. The gap is much narrower. So it's more than, it's around like 10% maybe, but you're paying 20% more. The VRAM utilization in this game is very low for this type of modern game. Let's do some fighting scenes. Again, 0.1% here, 28, here 24. Both cards generates enough frames to make this game enjoyable. Frame time is smooth, a little bit smoother on the 4070 Ti, but again, nothing critical. Again, it's still keeping 24 frames. So, and the bump is less than 20%. So I don't think it's worth the upgrade. Now let's compare 3090 to 7900. Again, everything is the same settings. So here we can see 7900 is way ahead. It's generating like 25, almost 50% more frames. So in this game, if I was only playing these games, I would definitely go and invest, because you can notice around like 25 frames more when we are in these numbers. Yes, in like 160, 185, you cannot notice. But like when it's 40, 50, and then going to 70s, you can notice that more extra smoothness in the game. And also the headroom for 0.1% lows. Here is like you have 7 more frames headroom from that unplayable 23 frames per second, which you will notice in the game. And here we are right on that edge. So in this game, yeah, definitely. Now let's compare to 4070 Ti. Again, we'll go to scene of fight and we'll compare the numbers. So here is much closer, 0.1% frames. The average frames is almost 10 frames more. So again, like here, there is not that much gap, and there won't be so much difference in the smoothness, which you will notice. Here is more like comparable numbers. And again, $100 more I will pay in this game to get 12 gigabyte more VRAM and also some 10 more frames. Yeah, so here is definitely 7900 XTX is winning. Now let's compare Last of Us. So Last of Us 1440p max settings, everything turned on. Let's compare 3090 here, 4070 Ti is here. Let's see what will be the difference in performance. So here, this same scene, it's much wider gap, 60 against 90, where the 0.1% is the same. There is one spike in both scenes. So this is related to the game, nothing to do with the cards. So here we can skip that 0.1 and compare 1%, which again dipped, but like recovered. 35 here, here still low, 17. So that's again could be from the game optimization. So average frames, it's definitely win for the 4070 Ti. You're paying $100 more and you're getting like around more than 30% frames in average. Now let's see what will be the difference when we use the DLSS2 on quality. So on quality, 110 against 70. What I can say. Yes, this game is pretty much enjoyable. On 3090, you will not notice that extra need for that extra frames. But paying $100 more, so you're getting like 30, 40 frames more, which is around like 40%, 50% more frame rates. And here we can see that there is no dip in 1% loss. Both cards around 50, which is equal. So, and only 1% is higher and the rest is higher. So in this title, I would pay $100 to have this kind of extra performance if I have a higher refresh rate monitor, but unfortunately my monitor can only go as high as 75. So I have to use the VSync to synchronize it with the monitor so that 30, 40. So above 75 for me is like frames which I don't need, which I will be using VSync, so it will decrease the GPU utilization to probably 80% in order to generate like to be within the limit of 73, not to have that tearing of the screen. But again, yeah, some people who have that 165 Hz monitors, they can pay that $100 more to have that extra frames, which will be more enjoyable, more smooth for this game. Now let's see what will be the 7900 XTX figures. So the first, everything on ultra. Similar situation as with 4070 Ti. Generating and even better. It's reaching 100 here when we have 60 there. And these games looks more optimized for this one because again we see that in these scenes we are not getting that 6 frames 1%, 0.1% loss. It's very smooth. It's 50, 40 frames. And when we compare, we can see that at least AMD is more optimized for this game. The game use the drivers more efficiently. So again, $200 more for this type of performance. It's worth paying. Now let's compare the DLSS against FSR. So here we can see here what we can see. If you notice here, the GPU cannot go higher. So in previous scene here, You see it's 90%. Again, 90%, it's 100%. These numbers is not 100% utilization from the GPU, because the CPU is on 80% utilization, and this is a 7700 stock. Here it's even lower GPU, because CPU cannot keep with the game, cannot work and generate frames, or like that, at least that part of frames which is like generated or helped by the CPU. So this is the maximum for the CPU, around 100. So the only thing going to the FSR, we are decreasing the load on the GPU. So this with higher, maybe 7800X3D will be 100% utilization. We can achieve 100% utilization, and in that case the gap will be much higher. But now let's compare to the 4070 Ti and compare the utilization. So here 4070 7900. Let's do the native. So here we can see that here on native resolution it's 100% utilized, when this one has much more power, both keeping the CPU. This is the limits of CPU, you see, almost the same number. And when we go to the same scene but with the DLSS 2 against FSR, here we have increase 107 and almost 96%. But here, for some reason, the game cannot utilize the GPU more efficiently, and it keeps stuck on that same numbers, almost the same number, because there is a scene when the numbers go above. So the scene where the load on the CPU is more, we see the GPU struggling. Let's go and try to find that scene. And see here. You see 95, 79, 87, 101. So here, what assumption we can make? I'm a little bit confused. So the game is coming like the game, the driver and the game cannot use the CPU as efficiently as NVIDIA drivers on the game, because it's the same CPU. Even here, even the CPUs, you can see 5075, at least this scene, this is 5000, so it's 75 megahertz more, but it cannot keep up with the CPU load, and the load is comparable, 8379. And CPU is not working, and CPU, by the way, is a Ryzen, it's not the Intel, it's not working as efficiently with the GPU and with the game. It's very interesting. I just noticed this. If you have any opinion why this is happening, please share with me in the comments. I'm very much interested how this can be. The game and the driver is not optimized, so one of or both are not optimized to work efficiently with the CPU, because like CPU is responsible for some part of the, let's say, visual aspects of the game, and that should be same for both cards. Like the CPU cannot like be responsible for something extra and fail to do it in the AMD compared to the NVIDIA. It should be the same, but the card cannot efficiently work. The GPU drivers cannot efficiently work with that CPU, because same CPU, and again, same CPU, same game, same version of game on the latest drivers, and the load is the same, but the GPU is generating less frames. when it's obviously can generate more because it's like 20%. So if we'll make a rough calculation, 90 is 20 divided by 5, it's like almost like 18 frames plus 18 is coming around 105 against 101. So it's definitely much faster or much capable GPU. Anyway, let's move ahead. This already becoming a very long video, but like at least we discovered something in this game, something interesting. Both AMD CPU and GPU in this game is not as efficient as the NVIDIA and the AMD CPU. Okay, so next game is the Hogwarts Legacy. This is my favorite, one of my favorite games for the benchmarking for the GPU, which have less than 20 gigabytes of VRAM. So same scene, same settings, ray tracing on, everything on, native resolution. We can see that we're getting almost equal numbers. 0.1% is better, 1% is better, average frames is more or less equal. But let's go till the end and we'll see very interesting things. We can see here with which reaching the edge of that 12 gigabytes, and here we go, we started 9 frames, 21, where here is 23, and here is definitely, you can see it's already 11.5, it going down because it's being pushed. Here we can see, let's compare. So we have to do some comparison here. So we can see that we have 11.6 here, 11.1 here, but the CPU RAM 12.3 against 19.4, almost 2 gigabytes of data here being somehow pushed to the CPU, and that's why we're getting these awful numbers here. Awful. You see the frame time? Awful. You cannot enjoy this game with this kind of frame time. You cannot. Just, it's impossible. Impossible. It's terrible. And this game, again, the GPU is capable because we see here, we'll go a little bit back. And there is no such demand for the VRAM, you said 9.6, 10.6. The GPUs stay equal, they're capable running this game 51. But as soon as we come to the places where more VRAM is being utilized, GPU using its capabilities of rendering this game. So now let's compare the DLSS quality to quality. And what we are getting? More frames. But pay attention, 1% similar, 0.1% less on 4070 Ti. And the utilization is for the VRAM is still high. Again, it's already being pushed 90.6, 20.3. Now we are coming to the most interesting part, entering the scene which is demanding more VRAM, more objects to be loaded. We see it's comparable. If you compare with the native resolution, it's still better, but again, it has a limit. Look what we are getting here. You are not getting anything. It's still smooth. It's still good numbers here, even though the average is same, but the average is nothing. You have to inspect the game in very demanding scenes which utilizing more VRAM. You cannot play with this. But this game, we can also look at the frame generation. Now we have quality and we have frame generation. Let's turn it on and see what we'll get. we are getting even more frames. You will say, perfect, our issue is solved. Now the 1% frames will be doubled. Will not have any issues. But I hardly doubt it, because initial frames already he has some issue with the tearing, with the artifacting, which I showed you in the Cyberpunk, and doubling it is not solving that issue. Now you will see what we are getting here. It's even worse than without frame generation. Look at this frame time. Look at here. It's terrible. What is this? It's slideshow. It's awful. So again, it's better to play this game without frame generation than with frame generation. If you are not getting enough frames, it's better to keep frame generation off, because here, as I showed, this is without frame generation. The graph is more or less, it's not that terrible. In some places it's not terrible, some places it's not terrible, but like 21, 13 average. But here it's terrible. What is this? The same settings, quality, but we turned on the frame generation and it's like awful. You cannot play this game with 12 gigabytes. You just cannot play. Now let's compare 3090 to 7900, which has same quantity of VRAM. Okay. Here we go. So what we are seeing here, same VRAM, but the utilization here is higher. For some reason, more VRAM is being pushed to the CPU. It's not so smooth. Frame time is not so smooth. We're dipping below 23, 24, which means we have to tweak some settings, at least to have that 1%, at least 24. And we entering the city, already 13. Like this game, definitely, these drivers definitely works in a different way. We see that it's using more VRAM, and we see that it's taking more VRAM from the CPU too. So it's taking VRAM from everywhere, with it, which is not so good, because this VRAM is much lower. And here we can see, even though the average is higher, but this one, this card 3090 is much preferable than 7900. So again, in this game, the winner is 3900. Now let's look at the FSR quality. Let's compare that one. So what we are getting, which quality FSR, TLS is much better. As we saw in the Alan Wake, and the quality is better, and here is even the number was better. Now let's entering the city. Again, like 45 against 37, 29, 28 against 25. Yeah, with this one, you're already not dipping below 24. Yes, of course, you have to turn it on to make it playable, not to have any unpleasant artifacts, but you are worsening the picture because it's not as smooth. The edges is not as smooth as with the native resolution. But again, it's definitely better. 100% is better. Now let's compare to the 4070. So here, what we have, 4070 here, 7900 XTX here. 47 is much smoother, even though they both, so they have similar, as I saw, they have similar VRAMs, but again, I'm sorry, they have a 7900 XT has double the VRAM, but the similar problem. They both goes below 24. This one because of, as I think, because of RTX. This one because of VRAM. But they both have this problem. So compared to this both cards, 3090 being 500 is a steal deal. And even if we compare the FSR quality, yeah, this one 4070 is much better with its DLSS compared to the FSR having the less memory until the moment when you're entering the city. Again, VRAM. GPU is capable. It's at least as powerful in this game as the 7900. But as soon as the VRAM is gone, you're done. You cannot do anything. So this card could be the best card if it at least had like 16 gigabytes, but they decided artificially to make it in that way. So you bought it for 1 year, then you have to be like, you have been forced to upgrade it, which is not currently happening now. This is December 3rd. In 1 month, there will be 4070 Ti Super, which I'm like 99% confident will have more VRAM. It will be a little bit powerful, but it will have more VRAM. It will be much more better buy. Yep. The next game is my favorite for the option to load the VRAM. So here I'm putting the rendering 150 to make it load more VRAM. 12.8 it's saying the game. Let's compare. So instantly you can see that's it's using 11.2. It's already exceeding the limits. Here is spilling the RAM almost 1 gigabytes, and the performance 42 against 61, 68, 92. So even though these GPUs, they more or less equal in the performance wise, but only for the VRAM limitation, here we can see the difference. So let's compare them. The longer we play, the more VRAM is being loaded. So you can see we're already at 13.5. If we stop here somewhere and compare, let's come to this point. Here we go. And we can see 10.9, so almost 700 megabytes coming here. If 13.5, 86, 69, 44, 63. It's pretty, at what I'm saying, the interesting. It's the VRAM utilization is more than the available, but the game is pretty much capable. The GPU is capable to run this game, even though the game needs more VRAM. So it's already not true that the more VRAM is needed, the harder will be to run the game. I mean, the GPU will be harder, and you have to, like the same situation. Similar GPUs, only for the RAM, we have higher performance. But now let's go further. I will increase that 150 to more. Let's do, for example, 180. Let's compare the same scene. Oops. Here we go. Same scene. You see how much is being pushed here? 4 gigabytes. And the number 22, 23. A little bit tweaking in the settings, which is not related to the only the VRAM but the GPU utilization. And we can have enjoyable even though 4 gigabytes is being pushed. So as I'm saying, this card would be much better card if it has at least 16, at least. And it will be much better if it has a same 24. You will buy 4070 Ti. It will be enough for like another 3-4 years easily. to not to worry about the VRAM issues. But they decided to do it like that. Now let's compare 7900, which doesn't have that VRAM limitation. So the first one, same scene. And then let's go back. Here we go. Look at this number, 17 gigabytes. 17. It's 17. It's still being able to push 37 frames. This is a 1.1%. 17. And it's still able to push. This shows the pure power of the GPU itself. It's much powerful GPU. The only issue is its ray tracing cores, which is weaker than NVIDIA. And if we compare to this one, the one I had here, hold on, I have so again 63, 88, 102. So it's much, again, it's showing that the optimization is not so good, but 1% is equal. But the pure power is much higher. So this is the optimization. This is the GPU. See, it's capable of more than 14 frames. It's using a huge number of. Now let's see. Quality settings. And this is the same, but with the FSR quality settings. Same scene. Quality settings, we can see 1 gigabyte less, but it cannot push more. The CPU cannot push more because it's going down, utilization 72%. When here it's 80, and still it's pushing more frames than here. So this much faster card. Let's go to more VRAM. Now let's see what will happen here. Here we go. 18.7. This we cannot pay attention on these parts, as it was a dip maybe in the game. But here, how much more VRAM it utilizes? 5 more gigabytes. It's still being able to push the game to the 77 frames. That's what I'm saying. And here already you can see the utilization 99%. Because the CPU is capable to run this game around 100 frames. So below that, CPU is capable, and then GPU is being loaded. Because with the more VRAM, GPU have to work harder. But still, it's using this much of VRAM and running the game perfectly fine. Don't pay attention on this one, because this, I suspect, which I didn't reset it again. Oh, here. Something happened, and it's, yeah, these two spikes. Again, it's from the some processes in the drivers or in the, it could be from my PC. It doesn't have impact on the game. We can see there is smooth, it's very smooth, some dips here, but it's like from, I guess, loading new part of this small city, but it's generally it's smooth time, frame time. It's pretty comparable, but this one using so much VRAM, still being able to run the game on more than enough frame rates. So what's my conclusion from all these three cards? 500 again. Let's do this 600 and 700. In terms of like noise to temperature, I'm pretty sure I can do the same tricks with these two. We'll have much better temperatures and much less noise. But like 500, pay 100 more to have these limitations, then like start thinking about selling as soon as 4070 Ti Super will be released, to buy that one, or like the price will, this one will go down. So it's risky. This is much safer. We saw in all games this provide comparable frame rates, a little bit lower, let's be honest, in the native resolution, and a little bit more in the quality DLSS. But again, with this card's power, it's fully satisfied me to run the game on my desired settings without needing that 5% or 10% more performance from 4070 Ti, but having like future proofing, at least in terms of VRAM. And for this one, paying $200 more, this is very, very like powerful GPU. But the only issue that, as I said, I am the guy who wants to play on the maximum visual settings. Not on the maximum settings, but maximum visual settings. If some settings have an impact on frame rates, like let's say impact is more than the gain for my eyes, I will sacrifice that settings. But ray tracing, at least the medium I need to turn on. At least medium. Medium, high, ultra, it depends on the game. I tweak it, I see. If I don't see the difference that much in the gameplay, maybe if I stop the game, I will see the difference. But when I'm playing, I'm not noticing that difference in the medium and ultra or high. I'm playing on the medium to have that extra smoothness. But to turn it off, instantly I notice the difference. And I guarantee that anybody will notice the difference. It's not possible not to notice the difference between ray tracing of the game and the game running without ray tracing, the same game. It's not possible, you know. If you noticed one, you will notice it always. So for me, I have to turn on ray tracing. So unfortunately, this card is not for me. I would like to keep it for testing, for seeing, because previously I had the 6800 XT for like 2 months. I like that card. But again, at that period of time, I was playing the Cyberpunk. It was already like 2 years as it was released. At that time it was patched out, everything was running smooth, and as soon as I was turning on the ray tracing, it wasn't playable. So I had to upgrade. I got 3080 and I managed to play on my desired setting from the beginning till the end of the game. Then I upgraded to 3090. I had more headroom, more smoothness. But now I don't think paying $200 more and not being able to play at the same settings that I was being able to play on 3090 is justified. But what I'm thinking to do for my next video, as this card doesn't have anything to worry about the price going down, so nothing is coming for the AMD, I probably will keep this card in my PC for daily run. We'll see how drivers is working, how it's working for the rendering, because I also do all the videos I render in the DaVinci Resolve. I will show how it in daily usage, how different is AMD. The last one, the most powerful one, because in the game part we already know. its weaknesses. But for the daily usage, a lot of people were saying that the drivers is not so good, that it's constantly freeze. I saw several channels who tried to do same trick. They were rendering. They were saying they having constantly issue with the rendering, so they had to go back to the NVIDIA. I want to see if that's real or it's just for their programs which they use, or even for their PC configuration. Because in my case, it's like everything is AMD in my computer, like they should work. But again, let's not forget about The Last of Us, where AMD CPU with AMD GPU wasn't as optimized as the NVIDIA. Please let me know your thoughts on that matter, because it's very interesting for me. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.